Hold your breath.
Approaching target coordinates mark. Sonar is showing dense anomalies, 300 meters ahead.
Copy that. Moving forward. Visibility is low, but wait. I have visual on something.
Command, you are not going to believe this. It's here. It's actually... Oh no. Command. This isn't good. This isn't good at all.
In 1978, a nurse from Tennessee strapped on basic scuba gear and jumped into the Red Sea. He claimed he found the remains of Pharaoh's army on the ocean floor. The entire academic world laughed at him. 46 years later, nobody's laughing. What you're about to see is one of the most controversial underwater discoveries ever claimed. I need to be upfront with you. Much of this is unverified. Some of it might be wrong. But the questions it raises are real, and they deserve a serious answer. Let's dive in. Literally. Ron Wyatt was not an archaeologist. He was a nurse anesthetist from Nashville with a radical conviction that the Bible was a literal historical record and he could prove it. Over 3 decades, Wyatt claimed to have found Noah's Ark, the Ark of the Covenant, Sodom and Gomorrah, and the blood of Jesus Christ. I'm not exaggerating. He claimed all of that. And for most of it, the evidence ranged from thin to non-existent. But here's the thing about Ron Wyatt that makes this story complicated. Among all those wild claims, there was one that wouldn't go away. In 1978, Wyatt dived into the Gulf of Aqaba off Nuweiba Beach. He surfaced claiming he'd found coral-encrusted formations in the distinct shapes of 4, 6, and 8-spoked chariot wheels, matching known Egyptian designs from the late Bronze Age. He also reported human and horse bones. His theory rested on a controversial reading of the Exodus route. Most scholars place the biblical Red Sea crossing, if it happened at all, in the shallow marshes of the Nile Delta, a body of water called the Sea of Reeds. But Wyatt looked at Nuweiba Beach, a massive flat plain leading to a natural underwater land bridge stretching across the Gulf, and said, "This is where it happened. This is where an army drowned." The academic world rejected him completely, and honestly, they had good reason. He published no peer-reviewed papers. His photographs were low resolution and ambiguous. He recovered 0 artifacts. Marine biologists pointed out that coral absolutely can grow in circular, wheel-like formations naturally. The technical term is pareidolia, the human brain seeing patterns where none exist. Think of faces in clouds. And it wasn't just secular scientists who pushed back. Major creationist organizations, groups that would have loved a discovery like this, publicly distanced themselves from Wyatt. Answers in Genesis called his claims unsubstantiated. The Associates for Biblical Research rejected them outright. When both sides of a debate agree you're wrong, that usually means something. Wyatt died in 1999. Case closed. Or so everyone thought. Here's where this story enters contested territory, and I want to be transparent about what we know and what we don't. In recent years, unverified reports have circulated online claiming that a privately funded team returned to the Gulf of Aqaba with modern equipment, multi-beam sonar, deep-sea ROVs, high-resolution imaging, to re-examine the site Wyatt originally identified. I need to stress, no named team members have come forward publicly. No institution has claimed the expedition. No findings have been submitted for peer review. What exists is a collection of sonar images and underwater footage that surfaced online and spread rapidly before being removed from several platforms. That removal, predictably, fueled conspiracy theories. But content gets pulled for dozens of mundane reasons. Copyright flags, guideline violations, user deletion. Removal is not evidence of suppression. It's evidence of content moderation. So let's set the conspiracy aside and focus on what the images actually show, because that part is genuinely interesting. The sonar scans, assuming they're authentic, show something unusual, not random coral clusters, but anomalies with geometric regularity, arranged in a roughly linear path. Some appear to show spoken hub structures beneath coral incrustation. Now, can sonar alone confirm these are chariot wheels? Absolutely not. Sonar shows density and shape. It can't tell you what something is made of or how old it is. Claims that remote metallurgical analysis identified bronze alloys should be treated with heavy skepticism. That kind of identification typically requires direct physical contact with a sample, not remote scanning through coral. What the images do justify is a simple, reasonable conclusion. There are structures on this section of seafloor that warrant professional, transparent investigation. That's it. That's the honest takeaway. But even that modest conclusion opens a massive door. Here's why this matters beyond the drama. The Exodus is one of the most important narratives in human history. It shaped Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It influenced the American Revolution and the Civil Rights Movement. It is, by any measure, one of the most consequential stories ever told. But did it happen? Dr. Israel Finkelstein, one of the world's foremost biblical archaeologists, has spent decades arguing it didn't, at least not as described. His position, shared by most mainstream scholars, is that the Exodus narrative was composed during the Babylonian exile, around the 6th century BCE, as a national origin story, a myth of liberation designed to unite a displaced people. The evidence supporting this view is substantial. Decades of archaeological surveys in the Sinai Peninsula have found no trace of a large Hebrew population, no camps, no pottery, no burial sites. Egyptian records from the relevant period make no mention of a mass departure of slaves or a military catastrophe in the Red Sea, and the logistics described in the text, 2 million people crossing a desert, strain credulity. But here's the counterargument, and it's not unreasonable. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The Sinai is a brutal, erosion-heavy environment. Organic materials disintegrate. Sand buries everything. And Egyptian pharaohs were notorious for erasing military defeats from their records. We know this from other documented cases. The underwater environment adds another layer of complexity. Saltwater and coral can preserve shapes while destroying the material itself. If artifacts exist on that seafloor, they may be, as some have described, essentially coral ghosts, visible but untouchable, documentable but unrecoverable. This is the frustration at the heart of this story. The very conditions that might have preserved evidence may also make it impossible to verify through traditional archaeological methods. Regardless of what you believe about the Exodus, something genuinely exciting is happening in archaeology right now, and this controversy is part of it. We're entering an era where exploration isn't limited to shovels and brushes. Satellite thermal imaging is revealing buried structures invisible to the naked eye. LiDAR is uncovering entire cities beneath jungle canopies. It already transformed what we know about the Maya. AI systems are being trained to identify potential cave sites that might hold undiscovered manuscripts, similar to the Dead Sea Scrolls. And underwater archaeology, long the most expensive and difficult branch of the field, is being revolutionized by autonomous ROVs, photogrammetric 3D mapping, and machine learning that can distinguish natural formations from human-made structures with increasing accuracy. The technology now exists to settle this question properly. What's missing is political will, institutional funding, and international cooperation in one of the most geopolitically sensitive bodies of water on Earth. The Gulf of Aqaba sits at the intersection of Egypt, Israel, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. Getting permits for a transparent, multi-institutional archaeological survey would be a diplomatic achievement in itself. But if it happened, a properly funded, peer-reviewed, internationally supervised investigation, it would either confirm the most extraordinary biblical claim ever made, or it would close the book permanently. Either result would be historic. So here's where I land on this. Ron Wyatt was almost certainly wrong about most of his claims. But the seafloor off Nueva Beach has never received the rigorous scientific attention it deserves. The sonar anomalies, verified or not, are a legitimate reason to look again. Not with the eyes of faith, not with the eyes of dismissal, with the eyes of Sissel. Because the worst thing we can do with a mystery is decide we already know the answer. What do you think? Should there be a formal investigation of this site? Drop your take in the comments. And if this is your first time here, we go deep on stories like this every week. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.